back to Behind the Brand by Maisie Moss. I'm super excited for this episode. This is a good friend of mine and a very talented designer that we have on for this episode. If you haven't heard of it before, then where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Today's episode is with the lovely Sarah Robinson, who is an independent designer that I've loved from the beginning and is definitely somebody that everybody in this industry could be taking inspiration from. So, let's go. So strange and surreal to be sat here now, given that, what are we in now, 2023? So 3 years ago, we were both very much at the start of our careers. And now we're here on the second time that we've been sat on this sofa because we had serious technical difficulties the first time. But yeah, just a mad 3-year journey, I suppose.
So strange. Like, I was literally thinking about this on my way here, just actually how weird that we're both doing this now. And we kind of, both started speaking at the beginning of our journeys. Like, you were one of my first customers when I was like taking pictures in my garden.
Yeah, I think we all went. That was the lockdown Instagram
behind a brick wall.
Mine was, let's put a white bed sheet in the garden.
The bed sheet, the crease.
Yeah, the crease bed sheet.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Yeah, so it is really weird actually, like the 3 years until now from the beginning. So.
And I think it's strange that it's so cute.
It's so cute. I love it.
It's strange that, like, in a way, that feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
But in another way, it feels like so long ago. And I think because this industry on both sides of it is such a whirlwind that, like, I was such a different person.
Yeah. But yeah, the growth as well. And I can feel that. I can see that in you. Like, it's just,
and vice versa.
Yeah. Like, that is, it is one of those things. Like, it's the common thing that people say that. The amount of years it's been, 3 years, it feels like ages, but it really doesn't at the same time.
When you think about the amount of stuff
we've
done.
done.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so no, it is really weird.
So speaking of those kind of 3 years ago, how did everything start for you in terms of, you know, the background of what you were doing that started Sarah Robinson as a brand and how that kind of came into fruition?
Yeah, so of course it is weird when I look back. So it all started because, you know, it was one of those standard like lockdown stories where I'd moved back from, I've just finished uni, moved back to my hometown and was just sorting my portfolio out and working part-time. Then I got my first job and I was meant to be moving to Sweden for that.
Oh wow, you could have told me that.
I've not told you that. So I was meant to move to Stockholm, so it was literally all sorted. I'd had all my interviews and they were really happy and then they were going to help me move out and I was
this was for work?
This was for work. This was like my first design job, so this was fresh out of uni, I hadn't worked anything and so I was like super excited. I was like, great, this is my next part of my journey. It was just like a junior role, but I just thought that's my next step. Okay, great, and then I'll be in Stockholm.
And I think at that point in your life as well, when you graduate uni, especially in a fashion industry, it's like even having a job. But having a job in somewhere like that, and it's the first path onto the dream of working in that industry, isn't it? Yeah. So it feels massive.
It was, honestly, when you come out of uni, which I'm sure we'll go touch on this at some point later, it is really daunting.
Yeah.
You know, people just think, straight out of uni, you just roll into a job. It's just not the case. So you have to work just as hard as you did at uni getting a job because everybody's finishing uni, so everybody wants those like junior roles and stuff. So, you know, I felt really blessed that I actually got a position and was like planning to move out. And my next step was going to meet the team. Then lockdown happened, and I just had this feeling. You feel it in your gut, and I just thought, this isn't going to happen. Yeah. And of course, you know, a few weeks into lockdown, they said, unfortunately, just due to everything, you know, they're having cutbacks, that they're just going to have to pull the role, but like they're keeping on the books and all this stuff. So then I'm kind of like stuck, you know, I'm in my hometown, working part-time in retail, and I was also doing drawing commissions on the side because that's like a little skill that I've always had.
Extra bit of cash.
A little bit of cash. I just thought I'll use that to my advantage right now. I just had a conversation like with my mum and just said, you know, I'd always wanted my own brand, but I thought I was trying to be like smart and think, right, I'll go into industry first, see like the skills I can learn, see what it's like actually running, you know, or being.
Because it's massively daunting to start.
Of course it is. Like, it's literally where to start, like where the heck to start, and you know, with going into a brand or whatever, you at least get like guidance of what direction to go in, and you can learn a lot from people. And that was what I thought. I was like, right, I'll go in to learn what I can, and then in time, hopefully, you know, I'm in a better position to start a brand. Exactly, and people like that, contacts within, I don't know, fashion, like fabric places and things like that. So I just thought, right, I'll do that. But then I kind of switched mindsets, and I thought, you know what, in the position I'm in, if I don't try now, didn't really feel like I had much to lose, except for time and, you know, some money that I put into it. But
and the one thing we had, I suppose, an abundance of at that period of time was time.
We had that time, and as well, I just thought, you know what, if I went into, you know, this junior role or you know, working for somebody, would I actually just be really comfortable and just think this is too much of a risk coming back out? I've got a you know, good salary coming in, and would I don't know, like, would I have just thought, you know what, I'm content with this? So I just think, you know, for me it kind of happened at the right time. And well, it all started, you know, I started on my mum's kitchen table. It was one piece at a time, and it was also when things were closed, so it was a bit of like, what can I get my hands on? I already like to work with clothes, upcycling them, but at that time especially, it was okay, I can get things from eBay, and then, you know, in between lockdown, a few charity shops were open, so that's how it started, and it all started one item on Depop. And I think that's why you got your. I don't think I had my website when you.
I think I'd found you on Instagram first, but I think you didn't have your website, so it had all.
So then it took you. So I think that's how it all started, and then I started my website. But that's trying to be the short version, but
no, but there's no short version to this story.
There's obviously stuff in between that as well. But that was really how it got started. The job got pulled, and then it was kind of a bit. Right, let's just give it a go. Never thought it would actually get to the point that it is now. It was just a bit, let's get a bit of money, let's see what people think of my design work and the clothes, and then
And it's funny because, you know, there's for all the negatives that you can say about COVID, there's so many of us in the industry that I've spoken to. It's the same with Katie. When we had Katie on the podcast, and COVID was an amazing time for her, and I think it was one of those completely isolated, unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities where, you know, there was a lot of people, for example, who kind of took the time to relax and everything, and that's absolutely fine, but it was the perfect opportunity for the people that really wanted to graft to make something of themselves, and obviously we'll get to it in the rest of the podcast, but the growth from then I think has so much to do with the time that you put in at that first time. And obviously because nobody, you know, I'm sure you'll agree, a lot of your business is down to social media and what that's done for you, because nobody was doing anything else other than being on social media and, you know, buying clothes, and, you know, I just think when people realise what this journey's been, it'll be such an inspiration to everybody else.
It's definitely was like the seeds to the brand, like the very, very beginning all started from the time and effort that was put in at that time.
And I think what was so nice is that your growth on social media as well was so organic. It wasn't a case of an ad here, an ad there, and you know, people genuinely just really loved the brand and loved you, especially because, you know, you're a one-man band, and for an independent designer brand, it's so important, I think, for people to have that inside of you to you and relate to you, and I think that's initially what almost drew me to it, apart from the fact that the designs are beautiful and I almost felt connected to you in the sense of like, this is what I've always wanted to do as well.
At the same time,
and that's really nice.
I think that's what I think I've tried to do with the brand, and what I'm trying to do more of going forwards is show a bit more of myself and, you know, me behind the brand, because I think it is really nice when you see like a bit more of a personal touch of like who you're dealing with and where it's coming from and the backstory of everything. So obviously hopefully this podcast does.
Yeah.
A little insight, because I feel like...
With a plug.
Yeah, because I do think I've been a bit quiet, because I don't really, I'm not shy at all, but, I'm not one to kind of be really out there. I do it more because I know how nice it is for, like, my customers to see that.
Yeah.
Because I like to see that from designers and stuff. So,
and I think for them to understand the amount of love that goes into each piece, because every single piece is made by you. And what I love is every time I've had a piece from you, the little label that says made with love. This has been pre-loved, because obviously you're a completely sustainable label with everything's reworked, and with praise the Lord, we're all here for that. But I think that backstory is really nice. So speaking of kind of like the social media and the growth and everything else, what do you think was the next step for you in terms of growth / like a pinch me moment?
I think with the coming about the growth, as I was saying before, I was doing these one-off pieces, selling them originally through Depop, because at that time I didn't have followers to, show things to. So Depop was kind of a good way for me to have like passing trade. And because I was regularly posting on there, they spotlighted me quite a lot, through their own social media, which obviously they've got like a bigger following. They would spotlight me through their own app, and already like that was already quite a big thing for me at that stage, and really did get people following my social media and my Depop, and getting those sales through. And then starting from there, I had more stylists, so I don't know, again, sometimes you're trying to work out where it actually comes from.
And it's probably a combination.
So it was a bit of a mix, it probably is already popping up on people's, like Instagram feeds and things like that, when they show you that bit in the middle.
Explore.
I was like, what's that called?
What's that called?
What's that thing in the middle? The explore page. When it's like trying to get inspiration to it. So, you try to work out where it's coming from. Anyway, derailing. So it was just trickling through, and then I had, I think one of my first kind of celeb stylist was for Ashley Roberts, which was like the Pussycat Dolls.
Which is, childhood.
I know.
Talk about nostalgia. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, so that was the weird. That was, because that was the first. I think the first. I was thinking, what? You honestly
was that one of those when your stomach literally went, oh, when you got the message?
Yeah, what is this a joke? Like, what? It was the strangest thing. So. And that was, my working from home shirt sets, which was, my number one, the first thing I ever made. So that's nice for me to have that. It's like my initial...
Pinch me
moment. So, Ashley Roberts. And then again, I think, which I'll probably touch on a bit later, is when the thing with like the celebrity kind of in the stylists and the magazines, what I personally think is good with that is people end up, like, for whatever reason, just having more trust in your brand. I think that's the biggest thing that I think comes from that, is that people think, okay, so they wear it.
Reputable.
It must be to at least like some sort of good quality and, good design for it to be featured in these kind of areas. And that's a good feeling for yourself, because especially at that point, I was still on Mum's kitchen table, and I know my whole mum, oh my gosh, it just kept growing and growing. There was like clothes everywhere. I was taking over the house. It was in the kitchen, it was in the dining part of it was in the lounge, it was in my room. And she just thought, I can't carry on like this, like, it's taking over, you're pushing me out. So when you're doing that, it's a strange thing, because you just think no one actually knows that.
Nobody sees
this behind the scenes. Like, they'll probably think it's in a nice studio and everything. But again, it just shows that little you can do it. Just go for it, kind of thing.
I think that's definitely the inspiration piece, especially when kind of I first came across you and I realised that for me it was like, oh my god, this is like powerhouse working fashion women, in terms of she's literally sat at her mum's kitchen table making these, and it's just her. And that, I think, for anybody who's like listening or watching or whatever, like you say, who's having this idea, is like, just fucking do it.
Literally, just 100%.
You don't need the studio, you don't need thousands of pounds if you use what you've got.
Yeah, when I started, I was in my overdraft, because I'd just finished uni, so as fashion people know, you get completely rinsed.
Yeah.
I'm sure with every uni course, I feel that fashion, of course, all the fabrics you've got to buy and everything like that. So yeah, I was in my overdraft, like I said, I was working part-time to get out of that overdraft, but my way of doing it was to do one piece at a time, and it is a slow process because you can't just put out a collection, and you can't do it like, I wish, that time, I had the vision of like studio shoots and collections and this, it just wasn't feasible. So it's just about, okay, this is what I've got to deal with, so like how am I going to make it work for me? And it does take time and it does take hard work, but if you stick with it, it's about consistency. And like if you're consistent with things, that's when it starts to build up. Like it just takes a good while at the beginning. And I still feel like I'm at the beginning. I feel like I've just scratched the surface.
Which is exciting. But do you think also kind of, you were saying, it's a lot about consistency, but also I think, if anybody else was looking at you and it happened during COVID, you'd be going, oh God, that's really bad timing. But actually it was perfect in the way that it worked, and you made it work for you, and it's like, the work from home sets, and the
you've got to work with what you've got.
And people were really connecting with people, so you making these one-off sets, and it's still a massive personality of your brand now is that they're beautifully made handmade pieces, and that has literally made your brand.
That's the DNA of the brand.
The DNA of Sarah Robinson, 100%. But that happened because of COVID and all the times that you were in. So I think, again, going back to that point of there's never going to be a right time if you keep waiting. It's all about just do it, and you will make every situation work for you, because essentially when you started the brand, everything that should have gone against you made work for you. And I think that again really should inspire people and encourage them to just do it.
You literally just have to go for it. And I just believe if you genuinely really want to make something work, you'll find a way. And it's going to be hard, it's not easy, but I feel like if you kind of a bit half-hearted, you think, oh, that'd be a nice thing, you might only get, you might, start making it work, and it might get so far, but then when you get to an obstacle, you'll just say, oh, it's too much work, too hard work, like, forget it. And that's because you don't want it really bad.
You need resilience.
You've got to be passionate. Like, it is hard having a brand. Like, you do have to do, like, I do like 10 jobs at once, and other people starting the brand, they'll be exactly the same. You're not just doing this one simple role, but when it's like your baby and your like passion, you make it work and you do whatever you can. And because, like I said, when you get to these obstacles, you can't just run away from it. So you just got to, like I was saying before, be consistent. You're going to have days where you're not motivated. I have days where I just think, you know what, this has happened, that's not work, I've lost my motivation, but do something else, like switch it up. So if I'm like, the design part's been doing my head in, like, lost motivation with that, right, I've got other things to do, so let me do that. You're just about keeping going with it in whatever way, because you can't lose that motivation with it, because otherwise you'll be like lost in the weeds.
100%.
So with the pinch me moment, I think there's never really like a, oh my gosh, I made it, because I still don't even feel like that now.
And you probably never will.
And I don't think you ever will. I think, I listen to a lot of podcasts as well, and it's the same thing with people that I look up to, and they say the exact same, that like they're just looking forwards. But I think that's a great like entrepreneur and business person, is the fact that you never.
What's the next?
That's the exciting thing, because you're looking on to the next thing. But I think there was a couple of moments, and it was in my first year. It was kind of like the Vogue Spain thing, which that would have been on my dream list. That say if you spoke to me in uni, and this is actually what my dad says to me, like, you know, say if someone came into uni and said, right, someone's going to be in like Vogue Spain in, you know, next year, would you have believed that? And, you know, it's you. And I was like, never in a million years, like never in a million years would I have ever expected to be in there and like walk into like local Sainsbury's and then pick up a Cosmopolitan and like me being there with like the brand to watch. Those were the kind of things that, in reflection, you have to. Sometimes, basically, my dad was saying that to me because I think I was at a point where I wasn't appreciating how like the hard work I put in and like the things that were coming out. Yeah, so it's kind of like sometimes not even saying something as like being in a magazine, even just like little things that happen. You do have to be your own cheerleader. Yeah. And just think, you know what, like I can do this, like I can, and I just would want to pass on the fact that I genuinely never would have thought I would be being in those kind of magazines. Yeah. So it's just that cheesy thing that, you know, if I can do it, like you actually can, and you know, people, you hear people say that, and you go, yeah, like whatever. Of course, you know, I'm sure you did at some point, but I genuinely didn't. Like I never thought I'd get to that point. So I would always just say, like, don't disbelieve in yourself. Like, if you have that self-belief, just run with it. Yeah. Just go for it because, and again, be your own cheerleader for yourself, the one you're going to listen to. Yeah, and I think these things come as well, like, even with me in my own career, like, these things come when you least expect it. You know, there's been times where I've been, like, feeling really, really low, or, like, my work's been crap or whatever, and the conversation that me and my mum always have is, if you feel super low, the only place you can go is up. Yeah. So, you know, and that sounds really kind of like philosophical. But all this stuff does, but you know what, like, I say always when it is so true. Like, it sounds like, oh yeah, I'm just like being really cheesy or whatever, but these are the things, like, you do have to be cheesy to yourself because it is the truth. Like, you have to bring yourself up and you have to be your own powerhouse to like 100%. Support yourself. And like you say, just keep the belief in yourself and what you're doing, because the moments where I've had the best things happen to me, especially career-wise, is when I've felt the worst about my career, and then something will happen and I'll be like, oh my god, I was like really not expecting that. So I totally get that. So I think, you know, I started my own brand at 16, and that was a massive, I don't like to say the word failure, it was a failure, but it wasn't a failure in so many senses, and I learned so much from it. But knowing what that process is like, there's obviously so many obstacles, issues that you face along the way, and I think anybody that starts a brand will face those, but one thing that I'd wished that I'd had was somebody who'd said to me, so this is potentially going to happen and this is how I got through it. And a warning. Yeah, so what do you think were like the biggest obstacles that you faced when starting the brand? I think just from the get-go is that when people think of a fashion brand and being a designer, like I really, in my head, my role and what I want to be classed as is, say, more like a creative director. Like, I love designing / making, like that's what I want to do. However, I think people think that that's all I do day in, day out, and it's a big part of it, but I'd say it's even only 50%. It is a business. It's, you know, so you have to be prepared that there's a lot of admin, there's a lot of unexpected jobs that you have to do. So you need to be prepared to do long days, long evenings, things, you know, change quickly and adapt to those situations. There is a lot of, you just got to be prepared to be constantly learning. And not just think, oh well, I can't really be bothered with that. Just, you know, I don't really know how to do that, so like I'm just going to stick. If you want to grow, you have to just constantly be learning and teaching yourself, because no one's going to teach you these things, you know, about stupid stuff like your taxes and sending your parcels and the way to send it, the best way to send it, and you know how to do a website, you know. So like when I started, you know, I did my own website. I still pack and send everything. I do all the customer service. I'm trying to think, the list is just long. I still photograph things on myself as well, but I just chop that a little bit off. So it's learning things like that, and when it's too much to say. So the designing, there's the making, but there's, like I said, the postal, the packaging. You've got to make sure your stock's, up to date and everything. You email us in the right way. You email people in the right way. So there's all these extra jobs that that initially you don't expect, and those just grow and grow over time.
I think, like you say, on the business side of things as well, I definitely experienced that was stuff that you are fully not equipped or educated to deal with, and realistically, unless you want to pay somebody a lot of money to deal with it for you, which at the stage of starting a brand, you don't have the extra funds for that. It's all going towards your product and your marketing and everything else. It's like you say, any kind of upskilling that you can do where you can learn this stuff yourself is, one, going to save you money, and two, guarantees that it gets done well, because nobody else is going to put the amount of effort into your business that you are. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I think, like, for example, this Christmas was chaotic. So, like, it was just to do with the postal service. So something that people wouldn't really connect with the brand, it's not really on their mind. But for me, there was all the strikes and everything. So there was the strikes. Then after, and as well, because I had, and still do have a processing time, because things are a lot of my things are made to order. I understood that, people want things, fairly quickly. But then there's the strikes happening, which was adding, I don't know, an extra 2 weeks on, probably minimum for some, and then if it's going overseas, even more. Then after that, there was the cyber attack, so that was coming into January, maybe even February, I can't remember this time scale. So for quite a few months, I was having to put in extra, I was paying extra to go with other shipment things, so I was covering like more costs, but it was also taking me a lot more time. I was also then having to chase up other, parcels that had already been shipped prior to the strikes that were just stuck. And obviously I feel awful because, I've in a way done my part, but I feel stuck because I can't really do much else than, pass on the information. So it's trying to deal with things like that whilst obviously looking ahead at, what's coming next, because that is the big thing as well, is that, you as a designer, you are always having to look what's next. You're not looking what's now, you've just got to tick that by, but then you're the one who has to bring the future to people. So you've always got to be a few steps ahead anyway. So it's all kind of like things that you don't expect, that I think are the biggest obstacles. It's, of course, the business side of stuff. That's, I feel, that where the obstacles come in. And as well, for me, it's a sense of growing the business. It's not just easy all the time. There's, especially with being a sustainable brand, I feel that quite a reason why people don't do it. It's not because they don't want to be sustainable, but I personally feel it takes like 5 times as long to do anything, because there's so much more to think about and consider when you're designing pieces, when you're making pieces and putting things out. That's why it's just so much easier to do it the other way, and that's why it has been done the other way. And so much cheaper. So much cheaper.
I think that's even why it's so much more commendable, though. I mean, for you, when you started the brand, was that a conscious decision for you that it was always going to be sustainable and you wanted to upcycle existing or vintage pieces?
So you know what, it was really like kind of key moment that I really started to think about things was in my final year of uni. Not gonna lie, like at that point I was just okay, I was in uni, I was trying to learn what I can. It was that it wasn't a focus. Sustainability wasn't really my focus in the first 2 years. And then I was working in retail and I had this conversation with another co-worker, and they were telling me how basically the shoes that weren't sold, that they would just burn them. And I had no idea, like I had no idea that that was a thing. And then I was like speaking to people, like, did you know about this? And they're like, yeah, we've heard it. Well, half and half, some had heard it, some hadn't. And I was honestly blown away that like these designer shoes, if they weren't sold, that rather than going into sale basically, that they would just burn
or
them.
being donated.
Yeah, do you know what just come up? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then that started me on like my research process of that could, because of course like burning things, that's not good for the environment at all. You're already making things to begin with, which isn't great from scratch. Then you're burning it. It's just not
totally unethical.
Totally. So that was when I started definitely being more aware of things. And then I finished uni, and again it just starts to become quite a bit more conscious. And then that going into the fact of me starting to just upcycle pieces, which was something that I used to do at uni again, because I didn't really have much money. So I just had to work with the clothes I had. So and I used that was kind of always been my mindset, and probably was something that I should have touched on before, that this has always kind of been a bit in me, because I always used to change up my own clothes anyway. So it kind of just went hand in hand really, the fact that I already liked to do that. And as well, like I always loved tailoring. I always loved tailoring.
Me too.
It's just always
classic.
the go-to. It's just a classic timeless thing. And it was my way of thinking, okay, I didn't do tailoring at uni, because that's just a whole another whole other thing. So like how this is like my way of doing it. So I think hand in hand, like that's how I kept in mind the whole sustainability side of things, was that first conversation, and that being my way, and then my twist on like how I actually used to style myself. Yeah,
and it's funny actually, because I had this conversation with Casey on the last episode, and I've had this conversation with a lot of other people in the industry of where we're going now. You know, let's say 5-10 years as an industry. You know, we're seeing a bit of I think start of a plateau kind of fall. Fast fashion, and people are way more conscious of, you know, what they buy now and how they shop and all the rest of it. What do you think it looks like for, you know, the next, let's say, decade in terms of where we're going with fashion?
I think definitely it's going in the right direction. I think there is a massive shift. People are so aware. Like, even the fast fashion fans are trying to do it.
Oh, yeah. It's hilarious.
But we won't even go there.
Let's not drag anybody today.
We'll just, you know, keep shush on that. But yeah, so there's definitely a shift. I think not even for the fact that people are aware that this sustainable is so important. You know, it's talked about all the time. In not just fashion, in a lot of places, but I think not only that, I think people are just getting a bit sick of wearing the same stuff as everybody else.
And the quality.
The quality is shocking. Like, it's actually hilariously shocking. It's just, I just can't deal with it.
It's funny because...
It's just...
I know. It's funny because my sister's generation, I feel like, are even aware of it. Like, don't get me wrong, they have no disposable income. My sister's 13. She has no disposable income. She doesn't have any income. So, I mean, they buy cheap. However, you know,
which I totally understand that part of things.
And that's why I understand, you know, we're in a cost of living crisis. Like, not everybody can afford to buy sustainable clothing. But I think, you know, the more the generations go on, we're so aware of it because, you know, they're more aware of the environment and fair pay for workers and all that kind of thing. And, you know, she's asked me to save her stuff previously from our wardrobe, and we've laughed about the fact that there might be some old PLT stuff in there, and I'm like, I'm not going to save that because it's probably going to disintegrate in 5 years. And we'll laugh about that, and it's like, you know, I think people are so much more aware of it now, which is so nice to see.
No, they definitely are. I think those are the big things, is the fact that the quality is just not there. And I think, like I said, it's just the fact of, you know, seeing the same thing over and over, and it becomes
tedious.
Yeah,
and I think people are less influenced by trends so much nowadays as well, especially what I'm seeing from my own kind of social media anyway. People are more interested in a circular wardrobe, and like we were talking about tailoring before, classic pieces that they can that are versatile, that they can rewear with multiple outfits, styled differently, and still wear again in 10 years' time.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely nice to see, and definitely a positive for
I know,
for Sarah Robinson in the future.
Yeah, keep it coming.
So, given that obviously a lot of other people probably started their own brands at a similar time to you, and it was a massive time for people to be kind of really getting into their passions, what do you think did and does still make your brand stand out?
So, I think there is a few things, like going back to that consistency thing, is I feel like I've kept the momentum going. So even as simple things as social media, you know, we know how annoying the algorithm is. It's so keeping that momentum of new styles going out, content. Yeah, I bet you feel the burn on that.
Again, I'm not about to drag into that.
So it's just being consistent constantly and showing people, you know, I'm a legit brand, you know, this is a business, this is a proper brand, I'm not just doing this as a side hustle.
Yeah.
You know, at first it was kind of seeming like that because, you know, I was part-time doing it, it was starting off, and it's not going to just go from 0 to 100 straight away, but it is literally just, I feel like because I kept that consistency, I was able to grow.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel that maybe other brands, I don't know in particular or anything, I'm not going to just say it out, but they might have just lost a bit of momentum or just thought it's not really for me or drifted off. But when you start doing that, even if it's unintentional, people aren't going to be interested, so you've got to keep people's interest. And I feel like, well, I've tried to do that and keep it interesting for people. And I think as well with the brand, even though kind of like the DNA is tailoring and shirts and blazers, and you know, that's my favourite thing to do, and like I love doing that, but it's a bit like my own personal style. I don't want it to just be that.
Yeah.
So you know, that's why I do work with denim, and I do work with quilting and these other like elements and materials and different styles, because I think, again, like I was saying, reflecting on my personal style, I like to wear kind of like pretty things. I like to wear kind of grungy things.
Yeah.
Like I have a complete whole spectrum.
Me too.
Of outfits, which I love. You know, sometimes I just think. Sometimes people think like with being a brand or with having personal style, like you're just this one or two.
Oh God, no! It depends what mood you're in.
Yeah, like, and I love the fact that I have like I've got
5
like
different
personality disorder.
Yeah. You don't know which version of me is.
Who do I fancy today?
Maybe we should start naming those personalities.
So I love that, and then that's what I just thought. You know what? If that's me, that's what I want to reflect on the brand. Like, I don't want it to just be tailoring, and I want to keep that as like my bread and butter, my DNA of the brand. But you know, I want to have these other branches like myself. So that's why I think that also makes it interesting for people, because not everybody people are going to get bored of just tailoring themselves. So. You know, and then some people also might not like tailoring, but they're like, oh, actually, I like the denim she does.
Yeah.
So it's trying to just keep that freshness with people, and that's something I'm also still working on. Like, that's something I really want to push moving forwards, that I feel that is so important, that I haven't done enough of.
Yeah.
Because there's so much I want to do, but
that's
a whole other thing.
Well,
actually, no, I don't know. Do you know I've got 2 seamstresses now?
I knew you had a PA potentially.
No, so with that, so it was. This has all happened.
She didn't want to do like 5 million jobs at once.
Yeah. So I still do majority myself. You know, like I said, I do the different roles of design and making. I do the website, the photographs and whatever. But it's within the year. So I've got 2 seamstresses they only do 1 day a week. But it just helps, and they work with me, you know, so I'll kind of just work with them.
Shave the workload off.
Just to give me that little bit of breathing space.
Yeah.
So I have them, and I also, my intern, Grace, she was just finishing uni, but I think she's going to be coming back to me pretty soon as well.
Oh, that's
nice. So yeah, and she kind of helps me with, you know, I'm going to get her probably like with the social media side, you know, I need to.
Oh God, that would be a huge weight
Oh,
off as well.
it's like it's a completely full-time job in itself. It takes up so much time. But again, I don't think people realise actually how much time that takes.
Because it's so integral as well as part of
it's got to
strategy.
Yeah, because that's how, if I didn't keep consistent on social media, no one would know about what I've got on sale.
Well, it was the making of your brand, essentially, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I've got two seamstresses, and then I've got hopefully Grace coming back, and she's just again because I want to grow the brand. There's a lot more research into things that I want to do. So again, I can pass that workload off to her. So again, hopefully free up a little bit of space for me, because it just gets to the point where I'm like, I can't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's, you know, and that's what I want to do. You know, going forwards is grow the brand. So but I can't do everything myself.
Yeah. And I think it's such a good point to touch on. Of, you know, you are 3 years in and you've done incredibly well, but it's a constant learning process. You still, you know, there's only so much you can do as one person, and you're still having to kind of learn as you go, make mistakes and learn from them, fail fast if you like, and that kind of thing. But speaking of, just one thing I wanted to touch on in case we don't kind of touch on it again in the podcast was the whole Mimi Webb, the Ellen show, that kind of thing, which were massive moments. How did those come about, and kind of what, you know, how did you feel? Because that's, you know, your clothes being on the Ellen show.
That's weird, isn't it?
You know, it's just broadcast all over the US is like mega.
Yeah. So I feel so blessed in the relationships that I've built with stylists, because I don't have a PR, you know, partner or whatever, and that's usually how people connect with stylists and celebrities, is through a PR agency. But again, I've been blessed that so many celebrities, stylists, have contacted me through clearly seeing me through social media and things like that, and or my name passed on or whatever. So they've contacted me, and I've managed to build these relationships. And you know what, when you're like kind of doing these things with stylists, it doesn't always work out. I think, you know, I do get a lot of emails nearly every day. Well, I say multiple a day really, which again that's even those emails, the fact that they contacted me, what a blessing that you know they're interested in what I'm doing. But that takes up a lot of time, you know, having these conversations, and it doesn't always work out. So I don't want people to think, oh yeah, it's sunshine and roses all the time, because sometimes there's a lot of time that I'll make things up, I'll get them sent. You know, it happened not that long ago for quite a high-end celebrity.
Oh, go on, drop the name.
I know, I can't. I wish I could. But yeah, it was a big one, and I put 9 outfits together.
Oh, you're joking?
Yeah. So I put like 9 things together. We sent it off, and they just said that they absolutely loved the store. Like, they'll be coming back, but this time it just didn't work because it was basically.
Was this for an event?
It was for multiple things, so it was a massive fit-in. And when they have fit-ins, just in case people don't know, like, if it's a big fit-in, they'll have multiple clothes there, and you know it's like going into like a store and you're picking out loads of things and doing a big try-on. So, and even if they like something, it might not work well for what you know. So it's all. And at first, I think when it happened a few times at the beginning, it felt a bit like disappointing, and it does always, and it does now. But I don't let it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Move on. Like, I can't think about, oh no, like why not?
No point
because there's no point. You need to be on to the next thing. So it doesn't always work out. A lot of times it doesn't. But you know, it's an amazing feeling actually when it does. Like I said, like Mimi Webb, and I'm trying to think like Molly. The Molly May thing, and
so that was the Mimi Webb thing was for the music video, right? So
I've actually dressed Mimi a few times now. So for the Ellen DeGeneres, that was the first time. So that was when, again, I think she was, you know, breaking out into the US at that time. So she's done it for then, and in the music video as well. I think that's a couple of times in the music video. I lose track.
She's too busy.
I can't remember now.
It must be crazy though, you know.
But it is a weird,
When you think back, and I just think, you know, whenever I accomplish something, I think of little me, and I think little me would literally be like,
exactly.
You know. So it's a nice feeling. It's like it's not what you do it for, but it's one of the reasons that you do it. Is you get these little bits of recognition, and you think, oh, I can breathe now.
Definitely,
and it keeps you going on to the next thing.
Like I said, it's not about that. You know, at the end of the day, my customers are really my number one.
Yeah.
And they're my blessing. They're what keep the brand going, because they're the people who are really, you know, buying into it and repeat custom and everything like that. So they're a blessing in themselves. And that's, you know, even when I get orders through, when I get my orders through, I'm still so grateful of that. But I think, the content that comes back from, you know, dressing the like celebrities and, you know, being in the magazines and everything, it is just that extra little pick me up. When, like I said, when you're having those like rubbish days and things haven't been going so well and you're working extra hard and you kind of feel like it's going like, where's it? Why am I working? Like, come on now. It's just, it's a nice like pick me up, because you said you look at it a bit like as an outsider in those situations, because, you know, you've watched their previous music videos or you've seen them on stage or whatever, and you used to look at their social media and love what they wore. So when they're in your stuff, you think, oh my gosh, like they've. And it is a bit weird, because you're like, wow, they've actually chosen me out of like everybody.
Little old me.
Like little old me again. You know, I know I'm in the studio now, but like little old me who was like on the kitchen table, and so it is a nice feeling. And sometimes I do, like I was saying before, you know, I do have to remind myself of that sometimes.
Ground yourself.
And just think, you know what? Like I said, be your own cheerleader and just say, you know what?
I think especially, 100%, give yourself a bloody pat on the back. Because I think especially, you know, in this generation, we don't, and I was talking to Bethan about this actually in the first podcast, is we live in such a competitive industry and generation and era of you never really give yourself credit for anything, because there's people who are millionaires at 25, you know, look at Molly May, and most young girls in this industry will be consistently comparing themselves to someone like her, and it's, you know, it's great what she's done, and it's not that it's unreachable, but just appreciate the little wins in life.
Exactly.
You're doing well.
It's that whole thing of like, you are on your own journey. Like, you completely are. You know, I look at other people and I'm like, oh well, they're doing this, and this, and you know, even in like social situations or whatever, or you know, personal life and things like that. But I'm on my own journey and I'm doing my thing. My career is important to me, and like that's my focus right now. And even I'm with career, I could say, like you're saying, like Molly, she's doing this and she's doing that, but that's fine. Like, it's a slow process. Like, the journey is long, but enjoy it, because there is no end. Or if there is, when you get there, like I listen to like a lot of like Stephen Bartlett podcasts.
I love
He's my favourite person ever. So
Stephen Bartlett, please shout out.
I know. Come on, let me on your podcast. I'm not after this ramble. But so and when I watch things like that, they constantly talk about the journey. And it's the same thing. Like,
and
enjoy it.
Look back. Do you know what it is?
Enjoy that part of it.
I'm 26, like I'm not old.
Like, chill out.
But I look back and I think, oh my god, I really wish I'd enjoyed that when I was in the moment. And I was waiting for something else. You know, with multiple occasions in my life, I was waiting for something else, and then I look back and I think, why did I not appreciate that moment that I was in? You know, it's even when it's the whole thing of like, and most women will do this, they'll be like, oh god, look how skinny I was then in that picture. And
you're like,
that's why at the time I thought I was huge. You know, it's the same thing. Like, we do it, but really so subconsciously.
You've got to enjoy the journey.
Yes, 100%, because you're never going to get that time back either. So obviously we've touched on this in other questions anyway, but what would be like your main recap kind of bullet points of advice for people who are starting out, even I suppose if it's not a fashion brand, but let's say fashion brand, people that are starting out now and wanting to do something similar?
I think it's a bit more like, when you're beginning, just kind of say yes to everything. Say yes to as much as you can, and because you don't know where that could lead to, you know, so you know, if you, like I said, if you have to stay up extra late and, you know, you take some time off to get these things done, just do it.
Yeah.
Because that one little thing, you know, it's all about getting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And people seeing you. So if you can get that recognition and through that building connections, because when people see you're passionate about like what you're doing, they want to come back to you. And I think that that's why I have built this, you know, a good connection with stylists, is because I think they've always seen my passion and my always like enthusiasm and willingness to work with them.
Yeah.
And again, that's so important, is those connections, because, you know, they might, with these stylists, they have multiple connections themselves.
Yeah.
And they might pass your name on for something completely different to what they do.
Yeah.
But if you, I think, definitely build relationships where you can, collaborate where you can, because collaborations as well, they can come back with you, and working with people. Like, again, me and you, when we first, you know, spoke, it was, you know, it was a customer and a brand owner or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we built that, you know, communication through just chatting and like, look, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Who knows what? You know, I never would have thought, you know, that you would be doing a podcast and things like that. Like all that kind of stuff. So I would never have thought this would have happened, but because we kind of had built that, you know, connection and had kept that and became friends through the whole process. It's nice, and I'm sure you pass my name on to people, I pass your name on to people, and things have probably come from that, like unexpected.
I think it's such a good point, because there's been so many times, even before I was in fashion, where I used to work in tech recruitment. Like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, wild.
Really random.
Really random. Any time that I've been in business, there's been people that I've met where initially you don't necessarily see how they're going to. And it's not that you make connections so that people can do something for you, because it's not all about, you know, being an opportunist.
No.
But I think you won't always necessarily see the immediate benefit that a connection or somebody can have on you. And then there's been times where years down the line, that same person has got in touch with me and gone, oh, by the way, this has come up, this might be of interest to you, and it's been an unbelievable opportunity for me. And that comes back to the being just kill people with kindness, because if you don't think that they can do something for you immediately and you kind of just, you know, shut them off, you could potentially then never have an amazing opportunity that comes.
Exactly.
And I think that goes across all industries again. Like,
and, you know, there's people say, you know, don't put things out that, you know, you're not absolutely 100% happy with, which is so true. Okay, so I probably started that off not in the best way, but when I like first started, not having the space I needed or whatever, you've got to adapt with that, and, you know, still work yourself around it. So, you know, you might not have all the money to do things, you might not have all the skills, the equipment, but what do you have to make things work? And that's what you've got to push. So you've just got to make sure that if you're not putting content out, nobody can see it. From my point of view, from what I do in fashion and the way my brand is on social, so mainly on social, is like how people see. If I'm not putting it out, people aren't seeing it, people aren't buying it. So you need to keep putting that out. So I feel like they're definitely my kind of like tips with it.
I think one thing that I mean, you'll probably agree with this, is one thing that I've noticed with most kind of businesses as well, especially in fashion, is, you know, you just made the point of obviously don't put anything out that you're not 100% happy with, but at the same time, don't be afraid for everything to be perfect. And
that was more what I was
the experimental.
Don't be so conscious of it.
When you first start a brand, you don't know anything about your audience or what they want. So, you customer base. So I think putting out stuff that, you know, like I say, be experimental and see what it is that people like, and be brave in that sense. Because it is, I can understand that it's totally nerve-wracking and totally daunting, but being brave enough to go, do you know what, I'm just going to test the waters here. So obviously we've talked a lot about kind of where you've come up till now. I, for one, am really excited to see where it goes now, because just the sheer amount of growth you've had in 3 years is impressive. So I'm excited to see what another 3 years is. So what's next for Sarah O. Robinson?
Well, yeah, the big question. Yeah, of course, I'm constantly reflecting on this and trying to look in the future. And there's just, I just feel like I've just scratched the surface.
Yeah. It's a nice feeling.
Which is a great feeling, because I just feel there's so many avenues that I can go down. One of my main focuses is I know that I have a niche market.
Yeah.
It's just because of the style, and especially at the moment, I do have a lot of things that there's a lot of skin showing and things, which isn't. So I'm aware that isn't for everyone. So it's kind of me reflecting on simple things as that of okay, trying to broaden my market a little bit, but still keeping me.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm working on at the moment. It's also different ways about actually putting things out there. So, doing one-off pieces is tricky because you sometimes can't market them so well and so much because there's one piece and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So of course that's why I've tried to do a lot of made to order. It's the pieces that are on the website. It'll be pretty much this. Well, it will be this style, but there might be slight differences because it's made from other blazers that might have a pocket in a different place. So that was a way that I kind of tried to adapt from just the one-off pieces.
Yeah.
But again, now I'm right, I need to also move on from that. What is next for me? And that's definitely something that I've been working on. So it's even the idea of maybe providing a service for people to come to me and
I love
me
that.
Yeah. So this is not definite. These are things that I'm mulling over at the moment. But as I grow, these are things that I need to consider. So there's maybe options with things like that. I'm also thinking of maybe do more of a collection.
Yeah.
A full collection. Gosh, can't speak. So there is, there's more thought behind it. There's more of a story behind it because that is what I'm about. It's the authenticity, the story behind pieces, and if I can build that into more of a collection, I feel that's exciting and that's what excites me.
Yeah.
So I feel now I've kind of got to the point of, I have more of a following, and I know that people are interested. So I'm thinking it might be even a bit of a clearer direction for me to work in, and where I can really delve into new things and mix a few more things together. So I think that's another way that I'm going to kind of work on. So there's a lot of things, I would love in the future, I definitely want to do menswear.
Oh!
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so...
I can already see my mind's going...
Yeah. So that's definitely something that I want to do. But again, these are things that aren't going to happen straight away.
No.
There are things that, because you've got to make sure, it's like you can't run before you can walk.
No.
So these things are always in my mind, like I was saying before, you always got to say, right, what's next? But I need to make sure that things are solid, that this isn't lost, because, I don't want to then jump to this. Yeah, this needs to be solid and, keep going at the pace that it is, whilst bringing that. I can't be working on that and then this go down, that won't be right. So
you would need 8 arms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, it's, and again on that note, I'm hoping to build the team as well, so get a bit more help in places that I haven't, got people at the moment. So again, maybe more of the business side of things, to just allow more time for me to actually do the creative part and sort that out. So definitely the menswear I'd love to do, but it's in time. And then there's other things, but just not. Yeah. Just gonna keep. I don't say too much.
What's again, if it's something that you can't say, but what's the big goal? I don't want to say end goal, because like we say, there's never an end to this journey. It's completely ongoing. But what's the big thing for you?
Okay, so goes back to a podcast I listened to thing, and it was basically someone saying, don't like be the best, be like the only.
Oh,
and
I love that.
Yeah, and it really stuck with me, and it made me reflect on, okay, like what do I want from like myself and the brand? And I was like, I want to be, well, I'm not going against like the best, and like kind of someone like, oh, okay, if we're gonna bring somebody in to like do this, who is it gonna be? The only person we could even...
The first person
would be
yes.
Sarah Roberts.
Yes.
You know, that kind of... So I want to do all I can do, all the research I can do, all the, you know, design work I can do, and really grow to be like the best person in my kind of industry and in my profession and in that kind of avenue of what I do.
I think that's such a good goal to have as well.
So it's just, so that's like the main thing. And you know what I would love to do? And it's again, like, kind of a goal and something that I would tie back to like the future. I would love to kind of collaborate more with brands and kind of work with them on like upcycling, you know, maybe their old stock, their pieces. Like I did that one with Adidas, like when I worked with, they were bringing out some new Stan Smiths, which were, you know, evergreen Stan Smiths, which were like all sustainable and everything. So I worked with Lavia, who's an Olympic runner, and then we worked together to, you know, upcycle her Adidas pieces. Yeah. So
which
that was
insane.
Which was, it was again one of those just amazing experiences
really fun project.
For me. It was so much fun. We had like the best time. And it was that I loved doing that. Yeah. So again, that's something that I want to keep in mind, that, you know, going back to like, if I become the best in what I do, then hopefully in time these brands look towards me to bring me in and let me help them, you know, bring sustainability to their brands. So
I think it's a nice goal to have, because a lot of that is in your control. You know, it's not one of, sometimes we have these goals, and I never want to say that a goal or a dream is unrealistic, but that in terms of, you know, a lot of that is down to your work, and it's quite nice to have an element of, do you know what, actually a lot of this is in my control, because so much in this industry is out of our controls, and that is one of my biggest issues, because I'm a huge control freak. If anything that's not in my control, I'm like, oh my god, and I really start to stress out, but that is, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's left me.
Anyway, so there, like I said, there's other things that I can't really touch on, because, you know, I don't want to say too much and then things not happen and whatever. But
we'll know when we know.
Exactly. So it's just all about building it. I of course want to grow it. I'd love to also, you know, another goal is to be in store somewhere. Yeah. Because at the moment it is just online, and I do get a lot of emails from people saying, "Are you in a physical store? Like, I'd love to try on." Yeah. Which again, I totally understand. But unfortunately, at the moment, just for various reasons that I've actually not wanted it in some places. Yeah. Or they've not really been right for the brand. Yeah, it's just not clicked or whatever. But then there's other places that I'm like, okay, that's a goal. Yeah. So I think it'd be nice for people to see things like in person and in real life and try things on. And again, that can just broaden my customer base. Yeah. So, and you know, the thing is, I'm known to just have too many thoughts. My friends are like, will you just calm down?
No, I'm like that.
Reel it in, because I'm like, okay, I want to do a pop-up like abroad, I want to do this. But you know what, I'm glad that I have too many ideas and too less ideas.
No, 100%.
So,
you just have to write them all down.
Yeah, this is like, rein it in.
Yeah, I know, I'm like that. I'll wake up at like early hours of the morning, but I mean like 3 a.m. or something like that, and I'll be like, oh my god, I've got an idea, and it's woken me up straight in the notes, and my boyfriend will turn around and be like, what on earth? And I'm like, I'll forget this.
Yeah, honestly, I'm exactly the same. Those notes are full. It's always at night, it's
always at night. Yeah. I can't sleep, because literally the minute like my brain goes quiet, it's like, hi.
Yeah, no, it is.
We're thinking now.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know if I've like touched on this, but I also have to say, to also give yourself a bit of time out, you know, like even if it is just like a walk, like I'm blessed that I live like near the beach, so I can just have like some time out. And again, it just popped in my head because we were talking about putting things in notes and things, and there's times where I'm like, okay, headspace, out of
just get away.
Yeah, just literally get away from the noise. Like, get away from the noise, take yourself away, have a bit of a time out, because then you'll feel refreshed going back, because you can't be go 24/7. Like, yeah, it's just not possible. So whether it's seeing a friend or catching up, going for a walk on the beach, going to the gym, those little time out do benefit. And sometimes I have to say it to myself, like,
it's hard to take yourself away sometimes, because especially if you've got deadlines and you've got loads of things going on and you want to just get something done. But then I think, well, you want to get it done to the best of your ability, and you can't keep, like I say, knocking your head against a brick wall. So as per usual, we've had like a few followers send in some questions so that we can make sure that everybody gets everything that they want answered. So one question that actually I was really interested in as well is about scalability, because obviously, like you say, the DNA and what is iconic of the Sarah O. Robinson brand is this really tailored, made to order, handmade one-off pieces. So how do you go about scaling the brand now?
So this has been like probably one of the most difficult things to do, scaling while keeping like the DNA of that, like just what you were saying, being sustainable. As I was saying before, that's why people don't do it, because there's like a million one things extra involved, keeping things sustainable. So I have obviously tried different things, and again, even these things different work, and I'm still working on this. So I don't have there's no like clear answer for that, but I've tried things where I started doing a lot like things from scratch, but was using dead stock fabric and things like that. And I do that like now and then. I was trying to do a lot more like that, because in that way I thought, right, I can get quantities out more of the same pieces. I can also hand like a pattern piece over to like a seamstress, and they can just knock out a few different ones in more sizes. But you know what? They weren't as successful as the my upcycled pieces, and I wasn't getting like the reception that I kind of thought I would. And again, that goes back to people like seeing the real you. And I don't think that was really the real me. I think I was probably trying to do it, obviously to grow the brand, but I think I was missing the true me behind it. So again, that's why I had to step back, reflect again. Like, why is this not working? It's because I'm steering a little bit away from me. So that's not really working. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work in the future, but for right now, I've obviously not. My audience isn't receptive of that. So it might be then, let's get out to another wide audience that might be receptive to that way of working. So again, there's two different ways to look at it. And then again, I think I was saying before, there's an option that there's no definite plans or anything yet. It was completely just a thought of this idea of like providing a service. Is that going to be a good way of working, that people come to me and like as a consultation and I work in that way? So it might not just, I feel that at this moment in time for me, it's not just, this whole brand is going to shift this way. It's more about, what other branches can I add to what I've already got? I think because, other, maybe unsustainable brands can kind of just shift the whole brand in a certain way of working with the way they do collections and things. But, I've kind of tried to look at them and it hasn't worked for me. So I have to adapt, do I just add in different elements? Of,
a slow and steady process as and when it makes sense in the areas that it makes sense.
It's all just about, keeping that promotion, pushing out to new audiences. And, I'm trying to focus on, not just like a niche figure and trying to broaden out. Because again, at the moment, with what I'm working on, I photograph a lot of things on myself, and I try and do, as much as I can, but I can't always photograph things on me that are like a bigger size, because it just wouldn't look right. So that's why, but again, I adapted to that by doing my made to order, where it's just the style is online and you can select the sizing. But again, and then it's like, bringing somebody in to just do a day where, or a couple of people which are various sizes, so I can photograph on them. So it's just kind of constantly reassessing and things that I'm missing to slowly grow. I don't think there's something that you can just go, right, I'm just going to switch and do this and it's going to shoot.
And again, that's the beauty of the brand, isn't it? Is that you are a slow fashion brand, you know.
So the process is slow.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think the more, you know, we've talked about the way the industry's going, the more everybody else kind of shifts more towards that way of life, it'll become less and less. It'll become more and more common.
Yeah.
To see this kind of thing. And again, you know, the way we were talking before about never knowing what's going to happen. Something could come up tomorrow that gives you another idea of how to scale the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next question was, who inspires you?
Ooh, this is a big one. Gosh, so there's a lot of things, you know, even personally, like my, you know, family, like my mum has always dressed like quite quirky in a way, but, you know, respectable and she's always had like a bit of a twist that, you know, when I was like in like school, I'm like,
oh my God,
like so embarrassing not just wear like jeans and t-shirt. Well, in some way, I think it gave me the confidence to, you know, be that little bit different.
Yeah.
So, and again, like my granddad, he used to dress really smart and again, really tailored and wore his like ties and things. So I think, you know, having that growing up, that's even in itself, you know, if I'm probably even unaware of it, that it is a bit of like an inspiration.
Yeah.
Of course, there's like people within the industry that you look at, just how they grow the brand. Like Jacquemus, like he just has my heart.
Yeah.
And again, and that's because I feel like he's always so authentic to himself.
Yeah.
And
that was through the brand
completely, and that in itself is why I love him and the brand so much more, because he is just himself all the time. He doesn't try and just like fit into, you know, this seriousness that sometimes the industry has. And, you know, that's not him, and it wouldn't be right for him to act all like serious all the time and things. So I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to be like that. I'm just going to be me and reflect myself, and hopefully that reflects in the brand.
Yeah.
And you know, he was from like a small town and everything. Like I am from a small town. You know, I'm not from a city or anything, and I don't think that I'm not trying to say that you can only do it from if you're in the city or whatever. But you know, I think sometimes if you're not brought up with that, you just feel like the imposter syndrome sometimes kind of thing, because you've not been brought up in like a cool kind of urban area or a really city.
Makes you want it more.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think that it's a little bit like, well, it's a competition with yourself, and you know, I want to show people that I can do it, like from this little town that I'm, you know, I am different, and that's good, and you know what, I want to push that, and
No, I love that. No, it's
that makes
and I
sense.
think inspiration comes from so many different places. Definitely for me as well. So yeah, I think you've answered that one. So the next question was, what are your favourite pastimes outside of working and designing? And we did speak about this before, and it's one of the hardest questions in the world when you work all the time.
Yeah, we were obviously just speaking about this like off camera, where I was like, so what do you do? Like, you know, in your spare time. I'm thinking, spare time?
Yeah.
What's
spare time?
Yeah, because, you know, you feel like such a, like, Elisa, because my work is literally my life right now, but I love it. I think that's the thing, like, when you love what you do so much and it's your passion, you do it. You know, when I have spare time, even on a week, you know, you don't just work 9 to 5. I know you're exactly the same. You know, I work on the weekends, I work in the evenings, like. But that's just because I also don't really like sitting around. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm
twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, I have to keep busy. I have to keep like momentum going. So, like, I do things like I go to the gym in the mornings. So that if that's classed as a pastime.
I think it's classed as a pastime.
Yeah. So I do love to go to the gym. I think it's really good. Like we were saying before, mind. It really just takes me in a space where.
It's quiet.
It's just quiet, and it's probably one of the only times that I'm not thinking about work.
Yeah.
Because any other time, like, say, because again I live near the beach and I go to the beach like probably every other day,
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's a blessing that, you know, we've got it so close. So I've got my little doggy, Olive.
Oh,
She's got to be included. She's got to be included.
Got to have
my
her own
baby.
little cameo. We should have brought her.
I know. Oh, yeah, you know what? She would have been
made it so
suited.
interesting.
Yeah. She probably would have blended in here. Yeah. So, you know, take her out and I take her on the beach. But even then, I'm thinking about work all the time. So again, I'm blessed with a great friendship group. So, you know, catch up with them. But my life right now just revolves around
work.
It's so sad, but it is just work. And again, if I'm out and about, you know, I have to go fabrics, you know, I have to go sourcing.
There's always something.
You know. The one thing that I really used to love doing, I haven't done it in ages, was obsessed with going to galleries and like.
I love a gallery.
Oh my god, I just love, because I love art, and like that was
Yeah.
like I used to do my drawing commissions. Like my granddad was an artist, and it like kind of passed that skill to me.
Granddad's an artist as well.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably why I knew that gallery as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm like, okay, I want to do this for myself. Is to go back and do that a bit more, because with living in a small town, nothing like that around.
Yeah. So the final question was, what are your 3 non-negotiables when it comes to your business?
So, well, sustainability obviously has to be number 1. That's, you know, always been the DNA of the brand. So yeah, definitely sustainability, authenticity again, and that's something that always trying to work on so people can see the real me, the real brand, the process behind it, the story behind everything. So yeah, definitely authenticity, and my customers are my number 1 as well.
Without them, you would.
Without them, so yeah, a loyal customer base. So, and again, that because that's nice that already shows in itself that, you know, you're doing something right if you've got a loyal customer base and they keep coming back. So I think my 3, sustainability, authenticity, and my loyal customer base.
I feel like all of those things really actually sum up your brand as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Hopefully, if you hadn't heard of Sarah before, you're now super interested and will at least go and check out the social media and the website. If not, go and buy something and know that you are giving a pre-loved item that had more love has been worked into a nice new home. We are actually both wearing Sarah Robinson today as well, with the iconic design feature. Thank you so much. That was really fun and nice to have you on.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see you.
Obviously, for the second time in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, technical difficulties, but you know,
we move. We conquer. We divide and conquer. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really excited to keep these going. Keep sending in ideas of anybody that you really want to hear from on the podcast that I can maybe get in contact with, or any more ideas of elements that you want to add to the podcast. And I will see you all soon. That's a wrap, bitches.